Yes, give them a hand as they come up. Grab a chair, grab a chair. Just making sure we got everyone. Hey everyone, my name is Dennis Baker. I'm the Business Program Director. Thanks again for coming out. Thank you to all the filmmakers for your hard work. We're gonna jump in and get started. So let's simply go down, introduce yourself, what project you worked on so we can get some faces with names and films.
Sure. Hi, I'm Dominic, and Sam Did It was the one that just played.
Amanda, is this on? And Night Call.
Hi, I'm Connor. My film was The Point System.
My name's Jackie Stone, and I did Burning Angel Dust.
I am John Beach, and I did The Accomplice.
My name is John Sage, and I produced It's Just a Gun, the first film.
So as we all know, it takes an army, it takes a clan, it takes a tribe to make any film happen. And if we can't have everyone up here, but we have some people in the audience. So we're gonna go down and they're gonna introduce cast and crew that are here. I know you're gonna wanna clap for every single person, but if we do that, we'll be here till midnight. So wait till they get through everyone and then one big clap for everyone involved in the film, just so we don't spend half an hour clapping for individuals, okay? So go for it.
My wonderful producer and first AD, Natalie Britton, is here, I think, in the back somewhere. And then a couple of our contributors to our Indiegogo campaign, Sarah and Matthew, are down here.
Don't be shy, it's okay.
Yeah.
Cool, give them all a hand. Nice.
I'm lucky that I get Marlene Barrett is here, our Khadija.
Wave it up. We'll wait for everyone. I know you want to clap for individuals, but let's just wait for everyone.
She was our Khadija, and she was also an executive producer on the film. Fibilia Aflaq-Borja, the producer, or one of the producers. Erica Jacob, who is our Dolores, and Nicole Sadas. And is there anyone else that's here that I didn't see?
Don't be shy, is that everyone?
No? Okay.
All right, give them all a hand. Yeah.
So for The Point System, we have Crystal Hatch, our wonderful producer who made a lot of miracles happen for this. Executive producers, Ben Olivas, Andrew Malcolm, Aidan McGarrian, and Clinton Bragger. Those two were camera team. We all work together regularly, so they did a lot of different things, but those are their official roles.
Cool, give me
one more.
Yeah.
Our actress, Stacey Mosley, is here as well. So
wave. Give them all a hand.
Don't be afraid to approach her.
Jackie.
So from Burning Angel Dust, I have two of the actors, Salima Sekou, who played the mother, and if you want to stand up or wave, yeah. And then the lovely Brooke Monet Westbrook, who played the little girl Violet, is also here.
Cool, next.
We have Dustin and Greg Hahn, the brothers who wrote The Accomplice, are in the audience back there, and our awesome producer Martin Spangers is back there as well, and then Paul Natonic, one of the actors in the film that actually shot me, is back there as well.
So you got the best job on set. Give them all a hand. Yeah.
I think I'm the only one here for our film. I know. We released it like a couple years ago, so I think our cast and crew are kind of sick of watching it. But usually the director and I are always at all these events, but he's actually out of the country right now working on a film, so I'll be happy to answer everything.
Yeah, let's give it up for the cast and crew of that film, though. So let's start on that end over there. I'm just curious, all these stories were different, and there's a reason why we kind of picked all of them, but we love that they were still all unique in their own right. And a lot of we had probably over 15 to 20 judges, and a lot of I kind of garnered questions from them too, and one of the big questions is just, where do you start? Where was the story? What was the inspiration? What was the thing that made you start, the person writing and then kind of getting it all going? So maybe start down there and just, how did that happen?
Well, we're lucky because this was actually a film we did for school. So with that, we have to finish a film and we have to turn it in. And so you have to get started right when you kind of are ready to go. So I got involved after the script had been written, just because the producing program at Chapman starts 2 years later, or a year after the directors and writers. So I know Brian, our director, and Dan Klein, our writer, wanted to work together, and they met up to basically write a film about chapters in the life of a gun. And after reading a bunch of scripts when I started school, I fell in love with the story and approached Brian and Dan about it, and then we ended up just working together. So it was just a matter of them getting together and creating something from an idea, and me loving it and being like, I'm going on this ride with you guys, so let's do it.
We were finishing another project, and Dustin was editing an episode of a web series that I created. And when we were close to being done, he said, my brother and I wrote this script, and he emailed it to me, and I read The Accomplice, and it was, you know, the little bit of stage direction up at the top, and then there were 5.5 pages of voicemails with the word beep in between them, and then the bit that happens at the end when the cops show up, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's you know, we have to figure out how to shoot it, but I loved it, and it was one of those rare moments also that you read a thing and you're like, this does all take place in one room, like we can pull this off. Yeah, we were excited to dive in. I got Martin involved and our co-director John Hogue, who had to leave early, and we all got together and just got into it. So yeah.
For me, Burning Angel Dust has been in the making for some time. Many years ago, I did my senior thesis on female genital surgeries, trying to determine whether or not these cultural practices were mutilation or just simply modification. So many years later, I did a film fellowship with Film Independent, and we were developing ideals around different cultures. And a friend of mine was like, you should do it on this. Even though the film was never shot during my fellowship time, I was like, you know what, this is a script that I really want to do. It's something that I really want to educate people about, and that's how Burning Angel Dust came about.
For the point system, I mean, I don't really know how it started exactly, but it was just sort of the development of an idea for a while. I'd been thinking about it for at least a year without writing, just toying with kind of the concept, and then it fell in line with my time at UCLA, so I actually made it as my undergrad thesis film, and that's how it started.
For our night call, I wanted to do something topical, and I also was very interested in people of color on the police force. And when I pitched the idea to the writer, he knew a woman who lived in and patrolled the south side of Chicago, and so that the story sort of evolved from there. But we really wanted to show women on the force and what they go through.
For Sam Did It, I'm in a writing class for actors, and over 3 years, everyone had been writing feature films with $100 million budgets and these big epic productions or pilots and series. And then our teacher, Alexa, laid down a gauntlet for all of us and said, hey, write something that you can write, produce, film, and get done in 12 months. And yeah, the majority of the class did it and produced and directed and wrote all their own films, and now they're out in the world.
What made you come with that idea of the...
you know, this idea came from, I got really upset in 2016, 2017, because there was this onslaught of celebrity deaths. There was Carrie Fisher and Prince and David Bowie and all these big idols, and then you see, you know, you see fans changing their social media avatars and saying, I'm going to have an Alan Rickman night. I'm going to watch all of Alan Rickman's movies, or, you know, expressing how much their idols had meant to them. And I wanted to put a fan at ground zero of finding that information out. So that was where that came from, I guess. Nice.
In all the kind of qualifications and what we look over to pick the films, one of the biggest ones that stand out for us is short films trying to cram a feature into a short film, right? Yes, you know, kind of talked about, you guys, you're probably familiar with that. You mentioned that in the idea. So I want to hear from you guys. How did you make your, okay, this is a short film. This is just what we're going to talk about. It's not going to be more. It's not going to be less. I'm going to make this short film all that it can be and just make it the thing. Can you kind of talk to that experience? Was it natural? Was it sometimes not? Some people wasn't natural. Was it a kind of popcorn, and whoever wants to kind of start answering that question?
For me, it was very intentional because, you know, I didn't have a lot of money and I wanted to deal with these big themes, but I'm like, how can I make this as simple as possible? So I really tried to contain it because I'm a writer, director who likes pink giraffes and I like parachutes and I like really big epic stuff. So it was really a challenge. I'm like, Jackie, set it in one location, which was my grandmother's home, and try to use this environment to tell this story. So it was a very concerted effort. I was like, you can't go over this amount of page count. You have to shoot it in 2 days. So I put a lot of restrictions in order to tell the story.
Nice. So you gave those restrictions even before you started writing?
Yes.
Nice.
Ours was the same. We had 12 hours in one location, and Natalie, our first AD, was very good at breaking everything we needed to do down, and we had a rehearsal day where we figured out all of our angles and we would sort of work our way around the room and sort of block shoot everything. But yeah, 12 hours in and out and done.
For Night Call, I had the most amazing writer who somehow knew how to do that in 17 pages. Initially he wrote a lot of it, didn't have like a real chase scene and all of that in it. And so I asked for that, and then he sent it to me and he was like, well, now we're going to have to edit it because it's like training day now. And I was like, no, so I shot it, and yeah, I mean, it was talk about, a feature in a short. It was a big, Fabilia knows. It was a big undertaking, and I'm really grateful that my school trusted me and the crew to do it, because it was a lot. I mean, we had a lot of elements. So we had like 5 kids also in the film. So that was a lot too. But yeah.
For us, I think it goes back to the script that the Hahn brothers wrote. I read that, and it was huge. Within the 5.5 pages, there's like Crazy Tom and Chuck at the bank and the Diablo brothers and Viper, who changes his name to Stingray, and Hammerhead. All this stuff happens that it was such a fun challenge to say, okay, this is all going to be on an answering machine, but it's this huge story out there that you can imagine sort of unfolding, and how do we shoot that in one room and keep it interesting and keep building the tension. And I think we all just leaned into that challenge a little bit. It was fun.
For It's Just a Gun, we always wanted it to be like one chapter in the life of a gun. And so we have like a little montage in the beginning where we show the gun going through different hands, but at the end of the day, we knew that like the one story was a short film in essence. And although it felt like it could be a part of a much bigger story, like a series or something or like that, but it felt like it was a self-contained short from the very beginning. The hard part was just like doing it in 4 days with kids in every scene. So all in all, I think when we went in it, we're like, we have to make sure that we give enough time for the kids, because you can't have kids on set for very long. But from the very beginning, it felt like it was a self-contained short. It felt like it could be longer with different chapters and different stories, but the beauty about the way Dan wrote it was that that chapter in the gun did feel very contained.
With the point system, I mean, I definitely always pictured it as a short story where you just kind of, you get in, you get out, and then you can just kind of sit and think about it. Because I had the story before I had the form of, a documentary style film. And it took me a while to get to that point to realize, like, this is kind of the only way it should really be presented, because there's so much like exposition and there's so much she has to describe. So I wanted it to feel kind of like one of those New York Times op docs where it's like this quick sort of moment. It's a day in the life, but just like a really fucked up day in the life. So.
Accomplished.
Since we have a lot of actors in the room, I'm curious, what was your casting process? Obviously, talk about writing for yourself and that kind of thing, because that's something we encourage our actors to do, obviously. How did you find your actors? also experiences in the audition room. I like to ask a lot of directors, how do you know this actor was the one? What was that experience like for you? So whoever again wants to start.
I could start. This was the first film I produced, so this was the first time I ever actually did any casting. But we did get a friend of the writer to be our casting director, and so she kind of understood the whole process, which was great for us because we just like showed up in a cool room and just like all these kids came in and started reading the lines. So that was fun. But I think when you're in the room, you kind of just know. When Josh, the main character, came in, he actually came in to play the friend, and then when BJ came in, he came in to play the main character. And so we had them both actually go back and then switch roles. And then as soon as they came back in reading the character they ended up playing, it was like, that's it, move on, we're ready to go. So for us, it was pretty, for the main characters, it was pretty easy because the first day that we saw them, we loved them, and we knew they were perfect for it.
Well, I was working with Crystal Hatch on all the auditions, and it was just like getting through a lot of people to find the right person. And we actually, when we saw Stacy and she gave this monologue, like we immediately knew that she was the one, but it was at least 50 in-person auditions. And I sent them all the monologue at the beginning about the zoo. And I just wanted them to come in and present it kind of how they would. I didn't really want to give them any direction. And a lot of them came in with this very kind of like crazy eyes, like I'm a psycho, listen to how crazy I am, which is not what I wanted at all. And when Stacy came in, she just kind of was like telling us this story very sympathetically. And it definitely made us uncomfortable. And like she really just slipped in there, and it just felt like you could relate to some of these elements. And so we knew she was right for it.
So for Night Call, we had Alita Chappelle cast the film, and she helped us bring in people. Then we ended up getting, so the script was finished right as we were starting to cast, and I had shadowed on Chicago Med. And so I got to know Marlene, and Fibilia, we sent it to Marlene, and this is how I remember it because it was so like, and then we were in a casting session, and Fabi walked, she was like, can you come here, and I was like, what? And she was like, Marlene wants to do the film. And I was like, thank God. So then that started that process, and I wanted to make sure that everybody was on the level of, Marlene, and she's such an amazing actress. And I knew someone from, a few of my friends from New York, because I had acted in New York, and they read the script and they wanted to do it. So we had the main cast pretty much cast. We had open auditions. We went through and called in young men to play JJ, and then ended up using them for other roles as well. We did a lot of improvising. Lisa Gallant also was very instrumental in bringing us people as well. And also Noemi Del Rio was incredible. She was ended up being associate producer because she did so much, but she ended up coming in. Alita only did like a couple roles, and so Noemi came in and really took charge of the casting, and we had like 17 or 18 or 19 people cast in the film, so it was a big thing. And I think what you had asked about, did you ask about
well, just how did you know?
Oh, how did I know? I just knew. What
is that?
How did I know?
How do you describe that for you?
How did I just know? It's like meeting a good friend, I guess. Like when they walk in the door and you just there's just something about them that you know that you're gonna be friends. But it's just, you just have this instinct, and it's your gut instinct, and that's how I direct. I mean, directing is 99% instinct anyway. Yeah, I just kind of knew, and then I would really freak them out because I wouldn't give them notes or anything. I'd be like, "Thank you," and then they, when they got called back, they were like, "We didn't think that you liked us because you didn't give us any really notes," and so yeah, that's how I knew. And then we read people together, and then yeah.
Nice.
So my producer, Miles Maker, he handled a lot of the auditioning. So we did a lot of video first, and then I looked at tons and tons and tons of people and saw a lot of people that were not right for the role. And then I maybe saw about 15 people in person, and maybe 15 adults and 15 children. And there are certain things that I really needed. I needed someone who could pull off a West African accent, so it made it kind of challenging. So it made it very challenging, and it was a lot of hard work, and I also needed little kids who could dance. So I had kids come in, and I'm like, "Oh, you're so cute. You don't know how to ballet. You're not going to work." And so when the actors that did come and read, I was like, I see you, I see you, and I see you. And when it's a intuition, it's a chemistry thing. So I could see someone becoming the role, and I could see my camera rolling, and I could see them in the different scenes. And then it was about marrying them together with each other. Like, once I cast Brooke, I was like, okay, Brooke Monet, excuse me. I was like, who's gonna play her mother? And then once I cast Salima, I'm like, okay, I gotta find someone that looks like they could be your mother, and also who could handle this Nigerian accent. But it's definitely something, like, usually I'll see someone and I'm like, it's her. Like the woman who played the circumciser, I didn't care what she could do. I was like, I like your face, it's gonna be you. If you can't act, I'll figure it out, but you're gonna be her. And that was it. I was like, yeah, we're good. Doesn't matter, we'll figure it out.
So I read it, and I, from the beginning, wanted to play the role of Jerry. Convinced Dustin to let me do that, and he was generous to let me do that. And then our producer, Martin Spangers, goes way back with Evan Peters, and we just sent him the script, and I didn't think much of it. We kind of thought, oh, he's busy, he'll never do this. And then he wrote back to Martin saying something like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for thinking of me. This is hilarious. I can't believe you would think of me for this." And we were like, oh shit, he's gonna do it. Like, we better get it together. And so yeah, and then Eddie and Paul, who came in with the guns at the end, we know them, they're good friends, so we kind of we didn't have a proper casting session. We knew what those guys could do and that they were all really good. And Eddie's played a cop, I think, in like 137 things, and Paul has a nice rookie cop vibe. So that's how it came together for us. Yeah.
For me, I was working with Alfred on a show called Feud. So we were working on that, and I very sheepishly, in November of 2016, sent him a Facebook message, of all things, to be like, "Hey, I got this thing. You don't have to worry about. Don't worry about it. Here's the PDF. Don't read it if you don't have time." And he very graciously said yes. And then we were planning to shoot in April of 2017, and we went to watch him in a play in March, Long Day's Journey into Night at the Geffen. And then in the lobby, we were maybe 2 weeks away from shooting, and he was like, "Great, I'm excited. Send me the script so I can read it." And he hadn't read the PDF that I had sent to him in November. So we had this conversation with him in the lobby of the Geffen, being like, "Do you feel comfortable being shirtless on camera? You're dead." But he's a lovely man, and he was very gracious, and he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm a whore for roles. Let's do it. No, he's a lovely, lovely man. He's very gracious.
Did you have a backup celebrity in case it didn't work out? Or like was that something where you're like, was this? Did you? The bigger question is, did you write for Alfred, or was this just a celebrity
originally,
in general?
as the original idea was percolating in my mind, I was thinking of someone younger, because I was worried that an older celebrity might skew into, a darker territory where it's like, oh, but we might lose this celebrity soon, and so I wanted to. I know that sounds. Oh no. But I was in my naive first time filmmaking head, I was like, oh, I wonder how I'd get this to Ryan Reynolds. But then, I was working with Alfred, and then it was like, oh no, of course it should be. And he's such a gracious, humorous, kind-hearted gentleman that it was then, once I thought of that, then there was no other backup, I guess.
Brilliant. I'd let some context. You guys hinted at it. How many days did you shoot? Talk a little bit about like locations. Just talk about kind of maybe some of the like pre-production logistics. Kind of give us some glimpses into the behind the scene of the final product. Anything that terribly went wrong that we didn't know about because you covered it, or just talk about kind of those behind the scenes since we've seen the final product. Some stories about that.
We shot for 2 days originally at Dustin, one of the writers' apartments, and pre-production, we had Evan, who we needed to record all of the voicemails beforehand, so we had him do that, and then on the set we would have a Bluetooth speaker, and we had blocked the scene and the kind of the path that Jerry was going to take through the apartment, and we would play the messages, but then need to do it once without the message playing and kind of do it by memory, and for the sound guy to get all the stuff so it was usable. That was tricky, and it became really tricky in the edit, and there were things messages that moved or went away, and that would change the timing, and so we ended up going back and doing a third day of shooting where we focused entirely on the answering machine and just covered it from every possible way that we would possibly need it, with every number on the machine. It was the most tedious day ever. We just were staring at that thing, but we felt like it was important, that the short would live or die with those moves and how precise we were able to be and to hit that timing. So we went back and did that, and that was sort of our how that came together.
I heard it was a prima donna on set, the answer machine, really.
Oh yeah, very temperamental.
Wanted its close up.
So with Burning Angel Dust, like I said before, we shot 2 days because that's all the budget would allow. We want to do 3 days, but the bank was like, no. So 2 days at my grandmother's house, and my grandmother had passed away like 3 months before, or else we wouldn't have been shooting in her house because that would have been a hell no. Behind the scenes, it's true. She'd have been like, what the hell are you doing in my house? Get out. The hardest scene I've ever directed in my life, to give you a little behind the scenes moment, was the scene where Violet's character is being cut. It was like hell on earth scene. Like everybody in the room was incredibly nervous. We set up for the wide shot, and I was like, okay, my movie's gonna suck, because I don't know how I'm going to direct this. And the actors weren't there. We were all just so discombobulated. My AD was like, Jackie, quick, let's go. I'm like, can you simmer down? This is a very emotional scene. He's like, you know what, you don't have a lot of time. I'm just telling you, stop coddling your actors and get to it. And then we had to set up for something else. My lovely lead, Brooke Monet, disappears. And so I'm like, okay, we're ready. And I'm like, where the hell is Brooke Monet? So Brooke Monet was out in the car with her mother crying, and I'm like, oh, okay. I talked to her mom. I was like, we got to use this. I go back inside. I tell my DP, put the 50 on. We're going for the close-up. We were set up for the wide. And I got her with those wonderful tears, and I had to feed her lines because she wasn't trying to say her lines, but it was a great, because she saved my movie, those wonderful tears. But because I really thought, I was like, oh God, this movie's going to suck because I cannot get this scene right because it was such a hard scene. And Brooke was in the same bed that my grandmother had passed away in 3 months before, so it was the emotional weight of that. and the emotional weight of the scene. But we got it.
For Night Call, we had 10 days to shoot. We shot 6.5. We used.
But I'm just gonna say, like, I've never heard the opposite of that. So you're the first time that anyone has ever said that.
But that's also because I had an incredible crew, and we had the most amazing camera team and actors, and so we used 2 cameras, and we were all handheld, and a lot of the times we wouldn't set focus marks. They were gunning in the dark. Yeah, and everything, we were able to use like 95% of what we shot. Challenges, the whole film was a challenge. But that's the kind of filmmaker that it's just who I am as a director. I'd like to take on really ambitious things that are hard to do. But I think maybe one of the most challenging things was that we had to shoot the chase scene, and a lot of the majority or a lot of the acting takes place in the car, and we didn't have a process trailer. So, it's very expensive to lock off a street in Los Angeles. It's like $10,000 just for, I don't know, 8 hours. So, and that's just to like lock the street off. That's not papering and security and, you know, whatever else. You know these answers. Yeah. So we finally found a location in Pomona that had this amazing street with the train trellis, and then it actually also backed up to the 210, so that way we could shoot the car speeding past traffic safely. Because I looked at that line, it was like, and they speed past traffic on the 118. And I was like, how are we going to do that? Okay. But then also, you know, part of the challenge was, so that was a challenge, a logistical challenge. It was just trying to put that together, and then trying to also know what I needed to shoot to cover it all, because you have to get, you know, we didn't have any camera mounts, so we didn't have any of the bells and whistles really, so I had to really get creative with how I was going to shoot it. And so we did a lot of backseat, you know, French, what's it called, French coverage? Yeah. And I did a lot of backseat. We took the car out of commission on the taco night. That was also a challenge, the taco night, because we shot it at El Chato Tacos. They're amazing on Olympic and La Brea. For free. They gave us the location for free. And we were shooting in an active parking lot. So it was sort of like I didn't know how that was going to go, you know, and it actually ended up going really well. But it was like, you know, there were a lot of different elements there. But yeah, I think also this, like everything, I guess. But the stunts were challenging. That night was just because I don't know how many of you have worked with stunt performers as actors, but as you know, or may not know, you have to switch in and out the stunty for the really, and it's a lot of, you know, it's a lot of back and forth, and it's challenging as an actor. I mean, as a crew, but also as an actor. I mean, I used to act, and I know that, you know, that was a challenging night. It was also a late night, but everybody did so well, and we got you saw, but with coverage we got was incredible, and camera team, everyone kind of really pulled together to work together to make it happen, which is so amazing. So I'm really grateful for that. Yeah.
Well, we shot for 3 days, scheduled for 3, managed to get it done. I think we had like maybe 2 to 3 company moves a day, which was a lot. But we basically structured it where we were going to shoot all of the scenes with the mom and her kids in various locations, and then the final day would be mostly the interview. And that actually went pretty smoothly. Overall, there were no real issues. But I guess the biggest challenge was in post-production, just because when I initially wanted to do it like a documentary, I thought, well, I'll shoot it like a documentary. We'll overshoot and I'll overwrite, and then we'll find it in the editing room. And, you know, hopefully that'll kind of have it build a little more organically. But I mean, we had like 4 hours of good footage for 10 minutes of film, and it was like, okay, this is like 5 months of editing. It was a lot, but I mean, the process was nice in that way, that we were able to kind of chip away at it and find what was most important. And yeah, just kind of constantly just shrinking it down to be the most concise, and just everything she says and everything that happens should be meaningful.
For us, I think the hardest thing was finding the location, because everything is so expensive in LA, and we were looking at places that were sets, and then the morgue doors were wood and sprayed silver, or we found places that were sets that had no ceiling, so we knew that we wanted to shoot up, so we knew that they wouldn't work. We ended up finding a place in East LA called Morgue Prop Rentals, and it's a real morgue that had so many requests to film there that they built a set right next door to their morgue. So like on one side's the morgue, and then the other side is the location. And it's great. It's a really great location because everything was pre-lit, all the lights underneath the cabinets and in the cabinets, everything is dressed. So it's like a one-stop shop because they had everything that was needed in one location. And we were very economical. We knew that we only had 12 hours in there, so a lot of our budget did go to that. But we got there to location scout, and because they had the real morgue next door, the guy was like, "Do you guys want to see a dead body?" And we're like, "Oh no, I don't think we do." And then our makeup girl was like, "Yeah, I want to see what I got to do to Alfred." So she went off to look at a body, and the rest of us were just there with measuring tapes, being like, "Yeah, this is good. This'll do."
So the rule is send the makeup person first.
The makeup person, yeah, Vanessa, yeah, she's a trooper, or crazy.
For It's Just the Gun, our class assignment was we had 4 days to shoot it, and the writer was ambitious. He wrote like 12 or 13 locations in the script. Our director was like, "Yeah, we could do this," and I was like, "This is my first time producing something. This seems a decent enough time to do that, I guess." So then I think the hardest part was scheduling it, and me being naive, I was like, "Yeah, we can, do this and do that, do this and do that." And then as soon as we realized that we couldn't do all that in 4 days, we're like, "All right, well, what's important and what's not? And if we can't do this, let's just do this like at a 5th pickup day." So all the montage stuff in the beginning, and then the end when we put the gun in the police evidence cart, we shot that on a 5th day. The hardest part for the first 4 days was just doing it with you have like 5 hours with the kids. So it's like, all right, let's figure out a way to shoot all the stuff with the kids, and as soon as they're gone, we can do all the stuff with the adults because they can stay there for as long as possible. So we did that, and it worked out. Everything that we pretty much shot had to be on screen because we had to shoot only so much. And then for the last day, something that no one really knows is that we had such a long day for the 5th day, the pickup day, that I wasn't wearing shoes in the last scene. I was just like walking around, so I had to I think we had to cut the frame a little bit because I was just like, "I'm not wearing shoes, it's 3 a.m., you guys figure this out, I'm sorry." And so I'm not wearing shoes in the end, and it kind of pissed off the DP, but it was 3 a.m., I wasn't wearing dress shoes any longer, so.
One reason we need these short film showcases is obviously to highlight this medium, but also to encourage our audience members to create their own work from hearing from people who've done it and survived and have the story to tell. I know you've learned a lot, but if you could sum up a couple things where like, this is what I would have told myself when I started this project, now that you're on this end, to kind of give them a couple nuggets to go, hey, if you don't hear anything tonight, take these 2 things with you as you're trying to figure out what your project is.
I'll just keep it short, because if the person I am today, knowing what I know now, were to go talk to that person then, if I said anything based on what I know now, I don't think that I would have been able to produce it, because I think not knowing what I was doing is the reason why I was able to make it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Ignorance is sometimes bliss.
Not knowing is bliss. But I think somebody who I greatly admire told me not to take no for an answer. And that goes across the board. And I think that that is a really important thing to know as a filmmaker, especially as an actor who's going to direct. Yeah, don't take no for an answer. And if that person tells you no, maybe they're not the one that should say yes, you know? So keep knocking on the doors, and if you lose 10 locations, right, just find the 11th one that's going to work.
I don't know if there's anything that I could say I didn't know when I was going in, so I can't really speak about that. But what I will say, especially for anyone who's doing it for the first time, if you're a first-time director, is surround yourself by people who are going to support you and who may have a little bit more experience than you do, because it will make your life so much easier, especially if you want to be in front of the camera. That would be my advice. So find you a great DP, a great AD, you know, a great costumer.
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to ask people for help either, or for advice. I met with people that were, you know, a year or 2 older than me in the program, like every week, like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I think if you do that, people are always willing to help. I'm always willing to help someone if they need help now. So I think it's just the way the filmmaking industry is, where everyone wants to help each other, because, you know, everyone started out at some point. So.
And what I say, don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be my best advice. Just do it. Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, I'd echo all of that. Finding a good team. My first AD and producer, Natalie, is indispensable, and then learning who your team is so you can work with them again. From a purely technical point of view, that I, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, had no idea when you finished your film and you're like, I've got a Blu-ray and I've got a DCP, and you start submitting to festivals, the amount of formats that are required, where people will be like, we need a ProRes 4444, and be like, oh, okay, yeah, we can make that. So then you get that, and then you submit to another festival, and like, we need a ProRes 422. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, great, we can do that. And then some festivals need DVDs and Blu-rays and just, I guess,
subtitles.
Make all of it in one go, so that you don't have to keep putting your film together over and over again.
It's if you know what they need beforehand, which most people don't know.
Say that again.
I was gonna say, it's if you know what they need beforehand, which most people don't realize
do the
first
research.
time around. Yeah.
I would say, looking back, there are a lot of times along the way when you can stop. You know, there's so many different parts of the process that I think are really difficult, and there are reasons to sort of not go forward and hang it up. And I don't know, I think, like, keep going until you're really happy with it, whether it's that film in particular on this. I think there were a lot of times when we could have been done with it, but wanted you know, to fix the sound or the music or this or that, and you keep going until it's the thing that you really wanted it to be. And on that note, so I don't forget, we did some post work here at the voiceover lab, which was amazing, coming in here and doing ADR stuff. And there are all these resources and you know, people that want to help. And so, yeah, that thing of just asking, and you're surprised at how many people will come on board for the journey.
I think you need to be able to visualize the entire process from the beginning, and kind of be able to know what stages you're entering in, and honestly just like running the film through your head and running through every stage, because you're going to have to get there at some point and you're going to have to make decisions, and a lot of times that you have to make them quickly. And so the more you've worked it out in your head before, the faster you can get the right answer for yourself. And so just being aware of everything you're going to have to go through and anticipating that so you have what you need in the end.
Oh.
I have, when I was making my very first short film, my friend said to me, he had made films, he was like, know what the through line, what the theme, what your film is about. Know what it's about, distill it down to like 1 or 2 words, because then you're going to get people handing you stuff and asking you things, and is it blue or pink, or is it this or that, or is it whatever. And if you know what that's about, then everything informs, all your decisions are informed by that one thing, simple thing. Yeah.
I think that's a great place to end. Let's give him a hand and say thank you.